Some people say that Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow are held together with duct tape, but why? Pokémon Green, Red, Blue and Yellow are the cornerstone of the biggest media franchise in the history of humankind, despite the amount of glitches, flaws, weak AI and severe mechanics oversights that people are still talking about. In this Iceberg, we'll take a look at the most infamous glitches, game-breaking mechanics and nightmare-inducing situations of the first generation of Pokémon games. Welcome to the Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow Oddities Iceberg.
Say my name. Eisenberg. You're goddamn right.
X accuracy. In Pokémon games, there are items such as X attack that can increase your attack by 1.5. Nonetheless, when you use an X accuracy, instead of increasing the accuracy of moves by 1.5, it makes moves completely ignore accuracy checks, meaning that any attack will hit, even one-hit KO moves that have the lowest accuracy in the game. Ghost PC. In Celadon City, there's a hotel that, if you take a closer look, it has the exact same layout as a Pokémon Center. If you walk to the corner where PCs normally are, when you press A, you will find an invisible PC. This most likely happens because this was the original location of the Pokémon Center before they moved it north, meaning that maybe they forgot to delete the access to the PC. Safari Zone Glitch. The Safari Zone glitch will play an important role in order to understand some of the upcoming entries on the Iceberg, but it's quite simple to perform. Enter the Safari Zone and immediately attempt to leave. Answer no to the guard that asks you if you're leaving. This will take you back to the Safari Zone, save the game there and restart. If you attempt to exit, the game will get confused and think you're entering, as the guard asks you if you want to try the Safari Zone. Say no and you'll be back out. What happens here is that the game is already counting the steps you had left from the time you were actually in the Safari Zone. Once you walk 500 steps, the game will announce that your time in the Safari Zone is over, even if you were outside. This will put the game in an even more confused state, and this will open the door for crazy glitches. One of them is Glitch City, a place of confusion where, as I mentioned in my Creepy Locations Iceberg, you'll be able to surf on buildings and walk on water. However, as you'll see soon, this glitch goes way beyond this. Standing on a tree. This is a very simple one. If you cut down a tree, stand on the spot where it was, save your game and restart. You'll be standing on the tree. Thankfully, this is not a risky trick, as you can simply walk away from that spot. Pokédoll skip. In the Pokémon Tower, there's a Marowak we have to defeat in order to progress with the story, but to do so, we need to get the Sylph Scope from Giovanni at the Team Rocket's hideout so you can identify it. You can completely skip this part by going to the Celadon department store and buy a Pokédoll. If you use it against an unidentified ghost, you'll be able to escape as if it were a regular wild battle. Red Life Bar. There's that beeping sound that alerts you that your Pokémon is close to fainting. Due to the game's limitations, there's a limit of how many sounds can play at the same time, and the beeping sound overlaps long sounds such as Pokémon cries, resulting in faster times. This is one of the most important techniques in speedrunning, but one of the riskiest ones, as your Pokémon is generally one hit or two away from losing, ruining speedruns that can last close to 2 hours. Focus energy.
Getting pumped up.
Focus energy was intended to multiply by 4 the chances of landing a critical hit, but of course it's Gen 1, so instead it does the exact opposite, dividing by 4 the user's probability to achieve this goal. Imagine how many people wasted a turn to basically ruin any chances of landing a critical hit, especially if they were using a slow Pokémon. Surfing on statues. The statues found on Pokémon gyms act as water tiles, therefore being able to be surfed on or even fish in them. Trainer Fly Glitch. The trainer fly glitch is caused by encountering a trainer that can battle the player at any point in the trainer's line of sight and escape from them. These trainers are nicknamed long-range trainers due to the long distance that they can spot the player, being defined as the maximum allowed by the game, and will spot the player the moment they appear on screen in the trainer's line of sight. When the game draws any NPC on the screen, that NPC is first placed in their default direction for 1 frame, being that direction south, before being updated to face their correct direction. For long-range trainers, this causes their line of sight to point south for the first frame, before correcting to their intended direction. For that first frame, the player can still bring up the start menu and use any field move or items from their bag. If the player uses fly or a similar move or item, then the player will be spotted by the long-range trainer before the player flies away from them. This causes the game to believe that the player is starting a battle when they're not, causing various values to be read improperly and creating the core of the glitch. This trainer fly glitch will be key in several more complex glitches in this video. Mew glitch. Mew was the very first mythical Pokémon in the franchise, and its existence was a secret even to Nintendo back in the day. However, it is completely possible to catch a Mew in any Gen 1 game, and specifically in Red and Blue, you need to follow these steps. There are 2 variants, but I'll discuss the fastest one. Have an Abra with teleport and go to Route 24 north of Cerulean City. Perform the trainer fly glitch with a trainer in the grass west of the Nugget Bridge. Now go to Route 25 and battle the youngster with a Slowpoke. Make sure that he walks towards you, as if he doesn't, the game will softlock. When you're done with the battle, go north of Cerulean City, and when your menu opens, close it, so you can find the rarest Pokemon in existence back then, a Mew at level 7. The reason why you encounter Mew is because when you fight the Slowpoke, this Pokemon's special is 21. This number is stored, and with the previous glitch, that number gets linked with the Pokemon that has an index number of 21, and it happens to be none other than the mythical Pokemon Mew. You can make basically any Pokemon appear, provided that you know the special stat of the Pokemon you are fighting, as that special will be related to the Pokemon's index number. Professor Oak wants to battle. Professor Oak is known for being a famous Pokemon researcher, but apparently he was intended to be the final boss of the game in the style of Red in Generation 2, as he has data for 3 teams using very high level Pokemon including a Tauros, an Exeggutor, an Arcanine, a Gyarados, and the starter that neither the rival nor the player chose. Given that the level of his Pokemon range between 66 and 70, it means that it's the most powerful trainer in the game. Type effectiveness errors. Gen 1 made a lot of mistakes in terms of type effectiveness. Bug was super effective against Poison and the other way around. The Ghost type that was supposed to put a stop to the almighty Psychic type was mistakenly programmed, and it ended up having no effect against it whatsoever. Ice that melts on the face of fire was neutrally effective against Pokemon like Ninetales, and super effective against Charizard given its flying type. Typeless moves such as Struggle were considered normal attacks, preventing Pokemon that run out of power points to ever be able to defeat Ghost types. When it comes to AI, trainers are programmed to make their Pokemon use an attack that is super effective against yours, if they have one, regardless of whether the attack is a damage inflicting one. This is very useful in speedrunning, as people would use free turns with a poison or fighting Pokemon while the opponent is spamming rest till the end of time, which happens to be a Psychic type move. RNG manipulation. RNG, as many of you know, stands for Random Number Generator, and it basically means luck in games. This will determine so many outcomes in the game, including whether a move will connect or not, how much damage it will inflict, which grass tile your character will find a wild Pokemon, among many other things. Depending on what buttons you press, specific outcomes will occur. However, while RNG is supposed to be out of the player's hand, by performing certain inputs, you can control, for example, what wild Pokemon you will encounter from the selection available in an area, allowing you to get what you're looking for instantly. This is crucial in Pokemon speedrunning, as you don't lose time dealing with what the game feels like throwing at you. Critical hit. If nowadays speed is a very important stat as it's what determines who moves first, in Gen 1 it had another critical effect, and we're talking about critical hits. A critical hit doubles the damage the opponent receives, and currently it has a 4% chance of occurring. Nonetheless, in Gen 1, if you had a quick Pokemon such as Electrode, your chances of landing a crit was as high as 27%. But this is not the only odd thing. In future generations, a critical hit will double the damage of the attack or special attack, even if this is modified by the use of moves such as Sword Stance. But in Red, Blue and Yellow, even if you maxed out your attack, the critical hit damage will only take into account the original attack stat of your Pokemon, and not the modified one. This is one instance in which a critical hit can be detrimental. Level 100 Nidoking before Brock. Imagine having a level 100 versatile Pokemon to start your adventure with the right foot. It is possible by doing the following. Get some Pokeballs and don't battle the last trainer in Viridian Forest. Have only your starter Pokemon and make it poisoned. After that, go to the end section where the last trainer is. Save the game close to this NPC and walk in front of him. What we want here to happen is that a wild battle triggers before the trainer challenges you. If it doesn't happen, just restart your game and repeat. Once in the wild battle, let your Pokemon faint, and right after you black out, you'll see an exclamation mark that indicates that the trainer saw you, but instead you'll end up in the Pokemon Center or Pallet Town. What you need to do now is to go into Tall Grass and find a Pokemon with a special stat of 7. Generally a Pidgey or Rattata will have this at level 3, and then lower a stat of the Pokemon 6 times. You can escape or defeat the Pokemon. Finally, go back to Viridian Forest. Your menu will open automatically, and when you close it, you'll finally find a level 1 Nidoking. Now, place your Nidoking in the first slot to encounter a wild Pokemon. After this, switch to your starter so it can defeat the Pokemon in question, and that Nidoking earns a bit of experience. Once it does, it will reach level 100, ready to obey you. Disappearing at Oak's lab. At the beginning of the game, you can get to choose a Pokemon at the Pokemon Lab. However, if you try to exit, Professor Oak will ask you not to leave, and the game will pull you back. For some reason, if you do it several times, your character will disappear and only the start button will work. Your menu will be glitched, but once you close it, everything will go back to normal. Out of Bounds Bike Shop Owner. If you enter the bike shop in Cerulean City, walk one step left, go to the bike in front of you and press A quickly before the NPC loads behind the counter, the bike shop owner will appear out of bounds. Nothing more, nothing less. Bike out of nowhere. It is said that perseverance is the key to success, and Red is a living proof of this. If you go west of Celadon City and you don't have a bike, the guard will tell you that no pedestrians are allowed on the cycling road. However, if you insist on passing and hold left, eventually you'll make it. And not only that, but when you exit, the guard will apparently lend you his bike. Well, of course that's not exactly what happens. What really happens is that the cycling road is programmed so that you're always riding a bike, whether you have one or not. In regards to why you can't pass the guard, I'm not quite sure about it. Shiny Ditto glitch. If you watch my shiny Pokemon Iceberg, you might be familiar with this one. First, catch the red Gyarados at the Lake of Rage and trade it to Pokemon Red, Blue or Yellow. Teach Mimic to that Gyarados and go battle a wild Ditto. Use Mimic so you can copy Ditto's transform while Ditto transforms into a Gyarados. Once with access to transform, use it to transform again. Since Ditto transformed into your Gyarados that already knew transform, the Ditto will transform once more into your Pokemon, and for some reason this Ditto will copy the DVs of your shiny Gyarados. And since shininess is determined by DVs, that means what you're thinking. When you trade your Ditto from Gen 1 to Gold, Silver or Crystal, it will be a shiny that you'll be able to use for breeding, and with a chance of 1 in 64 of getting a shiny Pokemon. Ditto glitch. The Ditto glitch is performed with the aid of the trainer fly glitch we've discussed earlier. Don't forget the place where you flew from. Now, fight any trainer. This will make your menu functional again. Then, walk to a location where you can find a wild Ditto and make it transform into your Pokémon. After this, defeat it or run away. And now fly to a place adjacent to the place where you performed the trainer fly glitch. And once you walk towards that route, your menu will open. Close it, and then you'll be able to fight the Pokémon whose index number corresponds to the special of the Pokémon that Ditto transformed into. In this case, you're able to control this, so you can manipulate this number in order to find basically any Pokémon you desire. This is an extension of the Mew glitch, and a much more powerful glitch to experiment with. Chief wants to fight. Chief is an unused trainer class in the Generation 1 games. He has neither a defined sprite nor a program party. When battled, his sprite appears as that of a scientist due to its trainer class being directly after Chief in the game's data. Chief can be battled using the Ditto glitch and a Pokémon with a special stat of 227, or through the use of the Old Man glitch when the player's name contains a dash in the 3rd, 5th, or 7th letter slot in English Pokémon Red and Blue. Walking out of bounds. This requires the Safari Zone glitch, but before that, make sure you only have one Pokémon that is poisoned. Once you do it, go to an area in which there's a ledge. Now walk, but keep your poisoned Pokémon alive as you exhaust your steps. Once you're on step 499, jump off the ledge and you'll be sent back to the Safari Zone. Before you exit, make your Pokémon faint when you're on one of the counters. When this happens, you'll be sent out, but this time, you'll be able to walk through walls and out of bounds. But beware, as if you go too far out of the map, you might end up with your game frozen. Gen 1 miss. The way in which accuracy works is that whenever you select an attack, the game rolls a number between 0 and 255. For moves with 100 accuracy, the formula would need to be, if the number is less or equal to 255, the attack will connect. However, due to an oversight, the formula instead is that if the number is less than 255, the attack will connect, but if the number happens to be 255, then the move will miss. This means that outside of moves that bypass accuracy checks such as Swift, all 100 accuracy moves have a 1 in 256 chance of missing. In Pokémon Stadium, the formula gets even weirder since they use the same flawed formula. If the number generated is 255 when using a move, the game will roll a second time to reduce the chance of missing. Nonetheless, there's always a chance that the reroll will also generate 255, meaning that the chance of missing with a 100% accuracy move in Pokémon Stadium twice is 1 in 65,535. Batch Boost Glitch. In Gen 1, Brock, Lieutenant Surge, Koga and Blaine will grant you a 12.5% boost in your attack, defense, speed and special respectively. This is interesting as the game states that earning Lieutenant Surge's badge raises your speed, but in reality it increases your defense, and Koga states the same for defense, but his badge increases your speed. This boost is not reflected on your Pokémon stats and is only applied the moment you enter the battlefield. Let's do an exercise. If we have a Pokémon with 100 in all stats, just by entering the battle and provided we have all gym badges, the Pokémon stats will be 112 except for HP. So far, this is what we call a badge boost, but now we will see what the badge boost glitch is. If you use Defense Curl, a move that increases your defense one stage, it will multiply your defense 1.5 times, giving you a defense of 168. That would be normal, but here's when the badge boost glitch takes effect. Instead of this, every time that your Pokémon stats are modified, the badge boost will take place again, not only for your defense in this case, but for all stats, meaning that now your Pokémon has 189 in defense and 126 in attack, special and speed. Notice how I said every time your stats are modified, and not only every time you increase a stat. This means that if the opponent reduces your defense, that will reactivate the badge boost for all stats. This can give your Pokémon monstrous stats, and this is yet another technique used by speedrunners to finish the game as quick as possible. Explosion. The power of explosion was different in Gen 1. In fact, back then it was stated as 170, even weaker than in current generations. But the thing is that when explosion was used, it would automatically cut the opponent's defense in half, virtually making the move have a power of 340, an incredibly powerful attack, but nothing in comparison to what it became in Generation 2. However, we'll leave that analysis for another Iceberg. Kinesis. Out of all 165 moves in Pokémon Red and Blue, there was only one that no Pokémon could ever learn. And I'm not talking about Struggle, but Kinesis. Kinesis is the signature move of Kadabra and Alakazam, and it decreases the target's accuracy by 1 stage. However, probably due to an oversight, the only way in which we can get to see this move in action is if Metronome randomly selects this move to be used. This was fixed in Pokémon Yellow. Manipulating NPCs. Some NPCs in Pokémon are programmed to walk, but when the player stands close to them, he can force these characters to walk toward places they wouldn't on their own. This can cause several unintended behaviors, and one of them happens when we manipulate the female NPC in Pallet Town at the beginning of the game. If you make her stand on this tile and you walk into tall grass, Professor Oak will ask you to go to the lab with him. However, since the NPC is standing on a tile the player walks during this cutscene, it'll mess up with the path your character walks, resulting in you missing the lab's door. There's something annoying that can happen if you force the NPC on Cinnabar Island to stand one tile away from the Cinnabar gym entrance before you find the secret key. As you may know, if you try to enter the gym without the key, the game will force you to step back. But in this case, there's an NPC preventing you from stepping back, resulting in the game showing you the message that the door is locked all the time. It looks as if you were stuck there forever, but since the game advances some frames before the message shows again, eventually you'll make it out of there, but this could take a while. You can also land on certain NPCs if you force them to walk on the other side of a ledge and you jump onto them. Missingno.
Who's that Pokémon?
Missingno is probably one of the most, if not the most popular glitch in video game history. It's actually one of the simplest glitches to perform. Speak to the old man that teaches you how to catch Pokémon in Viridian City. Fly to Cinnabar Island and surf up and down on the east coast of the island. A lot of what you can encounter here besides Missingno will depend on what the 3rd, 5th and 7th character your name has, but sometimes you'll find Pokémon over level 100. Missingno in its normal form is a backward cell mess of pixels, but it can also appear as a Capitops or Aerodactyl fossil, as well as Ghost from Lavender Town. But of course this is just the beginning, as the reward is not in the Pokémon itself, but in its effects. Whatever item you have on your 6th slot will increase its number to 128 unless you have a key item, in which case you won't be able to get rid of it. This opens a world of possibilities, as items such as rare candy, master balls and vitamins are limited in the game or quite expensive. A side effect you probably noticed is that by checking the Hall of Fame, you'll see that the Pokémon will be corrupted, replaced with Pokémon you've never used, or completely messed up glitch Pokémon that can change and corrupt the music playing as soon as their cry plays. Here are some examples. Missingno has become so popular that even TCG artist Tokiya posted fan art of all 4 Missingno's forms on her Twitter in 2016, meaning that it is the only glitch Pokémon in the franchise that has had an intentional depiction by a franchise artist. This post, however, is now deleted. But this doesn't mean that it hasn't been referenced in the official media. In fact, on Nintendo's official website they said the following: Missingno is a programming quirk and not a real part of the game. When you get this, your game can perform strangely, and the graphics will often become scrambled. The Missingno Pokemon is most often found after you perform the Fight Safari Zone Pokemon trick. To fix the scrambled graphics, try releasing the Missingno Pokemon. If the problem persists, the only solution is to restart your game. This means erasing your current game and starting a brand new one. This is incorrect, as you don't have to take the drastic action of deleting your save file. Instead, just by checking any Pokemon's data on the Pokédex can fix the issue. Although I think there's no known solution for the Hall of Fame corruption, as all Pokemon that were registered there previous to finding Missingno will remain corrupted. The video series Beyond the Pokédex about Magmar on the official Pokemon YouTube channel makes countless references to Missingno. I couldn't believe that many years later Missingno would be referenced in this fashion. It's a really fun video I recommend you watching.
What Pokemon did you catch?
What do you mean?
Were you actually on Cinnabar Island?
Substitute Explosion. If you happen to be in a battle where there's a substitute and the opposing Pokemon uses Explosion or Self-Destruct, if the attack has enough power to break the substitute, the sacrificed Pokemon will not faint and only its sprite will disappear. However, the battle will take place as if nothing happened. The Pokemon Fan Club is a dungeon. You must remember the Pokemon Fan Club in Vermilion City, the place where you get a bike voucher. Well, for some strange reason, this place is considered a cave or a dungeon, as you're able to use an escape rope. This was fixed in Pokemon Yellow, but the question is why it was like that in the first place. Leech Seed and Badly Poisoned. In Gen 1, Leech Seed saps 1/16 of the target's HP every single turn, but if the target is also badly poisoned, the damage Leech Seed inflicts increases progressively in the same way as bad poison. Even if the Pokemon is at full HP and tries to recover every single turn, the damage from both effects is so much that it will eventually faint. Moonwalking NPCs. This is a very hard trick to pull, but if you talk to a walking NPC one frame before it walks away, when they do, they'll walk away facing you, performing an iconic moonwalk. Spinning forever. If you make use of the Safari Zone glitch and go to the Viridian City Gym, you can step on the spinning tiles. If the step counter for the Safari Zone runs out in the middle of the spinning animation, Red will spin indefinitely. The most amusing part of this is that you can actually ride your bike and have the same effect. One of the most incredible things to ever watch in a Pokemon game is not having your last Pokemon survive on 1 HP in the finals of a world tournament, but to see Red landing at 1080 that not even Tony Hawk could ever achieve. Onyx is an evolution stone. While Onyx might be made of stone, it's definitely not a water stone. But in Red and Blue, if you have a Pokemon level up in battle that is also able to evolve with a water stone, you can send out Onyx, and after the battle is over, your Pokemon will evolve as if you had used an evolution stone. In the same fashion, Exeggutor serves as a Moonstone, Growlithe as a Thunderstone, Psyduck as a Leaf Stone, and Missingno can serve as a Firestone. Level 255. Although the level cap is 100 for all Pokemon, there are specific circumstances in which you can have or find Pokemon with higher levels. I remember having caught a Nidoking that was slightly above level 100. If I'm not mistaken, if you gain experience with a Pokemon at these levels, they will revert to level 100, but I remember giving it a rare candy and the Pokemon did level up, so I wonder how powerful my Pokemon could be. I spent many of the rare candies I multiplied with the Missingno glitch, and I got a level 255 Nidoking that I used to battle with a friend at school that laughed at the ridiculousness of the situation. Instant text. This glitch was discovered due to a mistake made by a speedrunner by the name of Swap. It's obvious that speedrunners would need a bike to travel across Kanto as fast as possible, but this speedrunner forgot to collect the bike voucher at the Pokemon Fan Club, and when he came back to the bike shop, he realized his mistake, but he anyway continued with the game. After some time, he realized that the text in the game was showing up instantly, instead of one letter at a time. If this could be replicated, it would save a huge amount of time, so people did some research and figured it out. The game sets a flag for instant text in certain places such as shops, but for some reason, if you speak to the bike shop owner without a bike voucher, the game never gets rid of that flag and all text appears instantly, saving a lot of time. However, using the bike is necessary to beat the world record, so when you finally get the bike, this glitch disappears. Impossible to escape scenarios. With a sea of endless glitches and oversights, it's no wonder that there are some circumstances in which the player can completely ruin a save file, getting in situations where escaping certain places becomes impossible. There's one scenario proposed by a user called Crystal, in which they use a Poliwrath, a water-fighting Pokémon against Lorelai's Dugong. What you need is a single low to mid-level poison or fighting Pokémon that knows Rage, and whose other moves are depleted of power points. Don't forget to get rid of all the items in your bag. After this, go to Lorelai's room, save the game, and you'll have doomed your game for eternity. Let's see why. Dugong will always be Lorelai's first Pokémon, a Pokémon that knows the recovery move Rest and that is considered a psychic type move. Once you engage in battle, your poison or fighting Pokémon will use Rage, a weak attack that never stops when it connects and that locks you to that very move indefinitely, regardless of power points. Dugong on its part will use Rest because AI in Gen 1 will always give priority to super effective moves, no matter if the move doesn't inflict damage. Since the trainer's Pokémon have infinite power points, Dugong will use Rest indefinitely, and your Pokémon will never be fainted or inflict enough damage to make any difference. As I explained before, the Gen 1 miss happens when attacks with 100% accuracy miss, and this only has a chance of 1 in 256. The only way to escape Lorelai's room would be to miss Rage 20 times in a row, so that Primeape uses Struggle and knocks out itself. But let me tell you, only having 2 Gen 1 misses in a row has the same odds as finding Mirage Island in Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald. Q. As you know, a Pokémon can learn certain moves based on what type it is, what its physical features are, and sometimes this doesn't even matter because limbless Pokémon can learn punching attacks. But one thing for sure is that Pokémon cannot learn every move, unless you're Mew or Smeargle. However, there's a glitch that can make your Pokémon learn moves that aren't programmed for that species. In order for this to happen, you'll need the glitch Pokémon Q. You'll have to perform the Ditto glitch in Pokémon Yellow with a Pokémon with a special of 192. This will trigger an encounter with the glitch Pokémon 44HY. If you feed this Pokémon a rare candy above level 6, this Pokémon will evolve into the Obscure Q, a glitch that will allow you to merge Pokémon. We'll need a PC box, so for convenience, let's work with an empty one. We'll need to deposit any Pokémon in the first slot. After that, we'll deposit Q, then the Pokémon we want to keep its form, and finally the Pokémon whose stats and moves will be given to the previous Pokémon. Q and the Pokémon below will be invisible because Q is interpreted by the game as a cancel button, and this is supposed to mark the end of the Pokémon list. Well, in order to make this work, you'll need to withdraw the first Pokémon from the PC box, and this will cause the last Pokémon to merge with the previous one, and that one with Q for some reason. This will result into what is known as an unstable hybrid Pokémon, but in order to stabilize it, you can simply deposit it and withdraw it from the daycare. With this, you'll be able to teach it impossible moves. And now you have a Pokémon that you can export to Pokémon Stadium 1 and 2, as well as the Gen 2 games. Imagine a Charizard with Drill Peck and Thunder, or an Alakazam with Fire Blast. For a more in-depth explanation, go visit CK Laboratories' video on the topic. Music glitch. I found this on my own, which isn't a synonym that I was the first one to discover this, but you can try it on your own. Do the Safari Zone glitch and go to the Pokémon League, defeat Lance, and once you're there, save your game. What you need to do here is to count your remaining steps, so that when you defeat Blue and walk with Professor Oak, your steps are over. You'll go back to the Safari Zone entrance as usual, but this time there will be no music at all, which is kind of eerie because the game plays music at all time. If you exit the area, you'll end up in Glitch City, still no music. And if you fly to another location, for example Lavender Town, the music will go back. Head to the Pokémon Tower, and once you enter you will notice something. The music from Lavender Town is still playing, in spite of the Pokémon Tower having a different theme. You can reset the music by exiting the town, but if you enter a wild battle and finish it, when you go back to the overworld, it'll still play the victory theme. This glitch goes beyond that, and if you reset your game, you'll naturally listen to the intro theme, but once you select your save file, the intro music won't stop playing. Another side effect is that the sound that plays when you walk against an obstacle will sound like a machine gun. And on top of that, even if you hard reset your game, this effect will persist indefinitely, and the only way to solve it is to go back to the Pokémon League and defeat the champion. You'll notice that when you enter the Hall of Fame, Professor Oak will not show up and you won't walk to the PC to register your Pokémon, but the game will still end. My assumption is that the music glitch doesn't end, not even by turning on and off the console, because the script in which Oak walks you to the Hall of Fame is not finished when your Safari Zone steps are over, and somehow this is stored in the memory. Let me know if somebody else has done this before. The Hook Dragonite glitch. This obscure glitch was discovered in 2009 by somebody named Paco81, and it's done by performing the Safari Zone glitch. After that, you need to fly to Pewter City and walk enough steps so that when you speak to the NPC that shows you the museum, you run out of them in the middle of the cutscene. Once done, you'll be sent back to the entrance of the Safari Zone, save your game and restart it. When you exit, you'll show up at the door of the Pokémon Mart in Pewter City, and everything will look normal, but if you walk east, you'll notice that the NPC will be walking south. If you stand to the left of the Pokémon Center's door and speak to him, answer no. The Follow Me theme will slowly fade away, and suddenly... the Hooked Dragonite. It's supposed to say the Hooked Dragonite attacked, but this is as far as it gets, as once on that screen, you won't be able to do anything and you'll be forced to reset your game. Besides the fact that a Dragonite was apparently found with a fishing rod, what's stranger is that the music playing in the background is not the wild battle theme, but that of the champion. Nothing else has been found about this mysterious Dragonite. Zaz glitch and the Trainer of Death. This is creepypasta material if I've ever seen any. For this, you would need to perform the Ditto glitch with a Pokemon with a special stat of, for example, 255. Instead of finding a normal Pokemon, you'll find a glitched trainer with 6 fainted Pokemon, but still, you'll be able to enter the battle. The glitched trainer is usually seen sending out a level 153M or a Q with an extremely long HP bar. Attempting to use a move or even just view the party will cause the game to freeze, unless the player has 2 or 5 Pokemon due to the corruption. However, the trainer can be easily escaped by using any item. Doing so automatically causes the battle to end. During and after the battle, the player can see that every Pokemon in their party, except each third one, has been changed to a level 153 Bulbasaur, whose first, second and fourth moves are all Explosion. The player's name, except for every third letter, has also been overwritten with capital Z's, hence the name of the glitch. Although the player's name has been corrupted, the OT values of the party Pokemon have not, causing them to be treated as outsider Pokemon. Combined with the fact that most of them are level 153, they will always disobey the player, as not even the Earth Batch is programmed to make Pokemon over level 100 obey. Those trainers will have red sprite and their glitched Pokemon are impossible to defeat. This is why this trainer has been named the Death Trainer. It's been reported that music can glitch out in the overworld, and I don't know if this is true or not, as I attempted the steps to replicate it, but there's a user on YouTube by the name of Experiment T who uploaded the following theme while exploring Lavender Town. To me, this theme that is said to combine the music of Lavender Town and Cinnabar Island sounds almost too good to be a glitch, but maybe somebody has successfully triggered this music to play with the SAS glitch, so please let me know in the comment section if you have. Thank you so much for watching. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers, and I want to celebrate with the release of the Eisenberg experience, a new YouTube channel in which we'll present you with all types of icebergs that aren't Pokemon related. Currently, we're working on the future of humankind iceberg, where we'll present both nice and terrifying things that might happen to the human race in a distant future. However, this video is only the tip of the iceberg, as we'll upload content related to mystery, movies, series, video games, among others. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.